Second.
All right, it is actually just a little bit after 6, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Would ask that those at the table as well as those in the audience take just a moment and double check and make sure your phones are on silent and do not disturb mode. And then if you would join me in a pledge of allegiance to start our meeting, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I get a roll call, please?
Westwood?
Here.
Battles? Daniels?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Browning?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right. Just a reminder or call out, as you notice, Councilmember Battles is not with us tonight. He is online as an audience member, and to keep awareness, and I appreciate him doing that and being there. However, per our charter, he will not be directly involved in our discussions, and he will not be voting tonight. Having said that, our charter also says that it requires 4 votes to pass. So just because we have 5 people doesn't mean it changes the rules. We still have 4 votes to pass. With that, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented with a call out that there was something that we have not seen before on the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda of Tuesday, February 24th, and call out the fact that we do have resolution number 3730, authorized submission of an MSEP application up for action tonight.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion from Council Member Ronning and I think a second from Council Member Daniels. Discussion at the table. I think you kind of included it in your motion, actually. Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Daniels?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Browning?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right. We will proceed as outlined. I will move for an approval of the February 10th minute. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the February 10th minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of February 10th, 2026.
I second.
Motion from Councilmember Ronning, second from Councilmember Davis. Discussion at the table, please.
I have 2 spelling corrections, and of course I can't find them now, but, one is Steve, it says right, but it's Reitz, R-E-I-T-Z. I'm sorry, I underlined it this morning.
Thank you.
And the second one is not a huge, but being Ann with an E or without an E, I think Melissa would like 1 S as her name. Melissa, Disc Golf Melissa. Got it.
As a single S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you for those.
Mm-hmm.
And those are minor, so they do not require a separate action.
And can you repeat how to spell it?
R-E-I-T-Z.
Thank you.
And Melissa with a single S. Okay. Those changes will be made. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Daniels?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Browning? Yes. Rude?
Yes.
Tupin? Abstain.
Oh, there.
You can spell it.
4-0 or 4, yeah, I guess it's 4-0, motion passes. For the record, I will share that Dan Clark has shared with us that you are allowed to vote on minutes that you were not there as an, okay. You're,
I'm allowed.
yeah. Choosing not to, and that's fine too. My job is just make sure we all know. All right. With that, Mayor's comments. First thing, just to share as kind of a public service announcement for those online as well as in the chamber. This is our last council meeting before the homestead tax break comes in. March 1st is that deadline. Theoretically, if you've applied for and gotten the rebate last year, you are automatically enrolled. Having said that, In chatting with those folks, I would encourage you to go on just to validate, because I have heard of several reports that were on that were not in the enrollment on that. So it's homestead.mt.gov, and you will need your geocode from your cadastral. You can go to cadastral and get your geocode, and you can go in. I did mine. It took 12 seconds, and mine was good, but like I said, I do know that there are reports that is not the case. In this week's paper, there are 2 board positions that we have advertised. We have a vacancy on the Sustainability Board. We have a departing member, Joy, and I apologize, I don't have the last name, Joy Goodwin, who is not going to re-up at this time for that. And we also have an opening on the Resort Tax Board. Thank you, Brent Moore, for his service there. But those are 2 positions that we will be reappointing, and so they are online, they are in the paper, and I presume the deadline is the Thursday before the next meeting. And the reason for that is that gives us a chance to include all the letters of interest in the packet, which goes out Friday morning. So anybody who's interested in those positions, there are some other openings that we are looking at and other reappointments that we will be making that I do not have ready to announce at this time. We do have, and in fact, it was brought up, there's an application for the MSEP, which is at 3730. This is an application that the short version is to get somebody else to pay for our stormwater update that we're doing. And it has a deadline that's coming up, and we do not have another council meeting before that. The emails announcing the deadline just kind of slipped through, and it's kind of like, oh, we need to do that at this meeting to do that. The other thing that I would add to that, some of you may have noticed if you stopped to pick up an agenda on the way in, there is a little public petition, what do we call that?
The signature page with the petition.
A signature page of basically that when you turn in an application, they like to have support, and what you're basically signing is, yes, we'd like to use other people's money to pay for our stormwater. So if you feel so inclined, if you would please stop and sign that on the way out. Part of what happened is at the state level, they changed how much we are eligible for. Historically, Red Lodge has been eligible for $500,000, and we've done a pretty good job of maxing it out and taking it. They just bumped it up to $750,000, which means we have another $250,000 that we are allowed to apply for. And we tend to be our engineering firm tends to do a pretty good job at keeping us ahead of that and ready to go when those come available. The other thing, kind of along that line of public works, the 50/50 sidewalk application, I'm going to put a little asterisk here because we're still working on it. There was some changes that we want to make sure got reflected online for that, but this is basically the program where if your sidewalk in front of your home or business is damaged and you would like to replace it, now is your opportunity to do it for half off. So there's a cap on that, but what will happen is in the resort tax last year's budget, we put in $50,000. We didn't have the program defined yet. It is now defined, so check the latter part of this week or the first part of next week. My goal is to run out of money, meaning people have taken advantage of it and there's that many sidewalks that have been improved throughout our city. Other thing, we just had our annual budget is done. Looks like this. There's a copy out in the public folder. There's also a copy online. There were 2 findings that we had that we will always have. The first has to do with being a small municipality and we don't have enough independent roles, so everything doesn't go through 6 independent approvers as it goes through. So we basically have a stock answer that we turn that in. There's another one that we don't do an independent audit separate of the auditors. We don't audit the auditors. And that's another one that small municipalities just do because basically there's no financial benefit in spending another $50,000 to do the same job twice. There was a third finding that we have not had historically. Whenever we have contractors and we're using federal money, we have to double check and make sure that they're not on these people aren't eligible to get federal money list. It turns out that does not apply just to contractors. It also applies to property owners. And so the auditors called out that we did not have a paper trail on the bastions when the city acquired the Rocky Fork property. So they went back and it's all fine and it's all good, but we didn't have the required paper trail for that. So that's a third finding that's in there. And we continue to learn and get better as we go through these. So like I said, I was pretty happy that we just had the two that we knew we were going to get. Unless we want a triple city staff, we don't really get around those. Approved major events for this cycle. Shakespeare in the Park is going to be July 11th. Ski joring is approved for March 14th and 15th. We get some snow in here, that'll certainly help. And then the Labor Day Arts Fair, which is September 7th, has been approved. So those are the three events that have been approved. Councilmember Rood.
Per our discussion at the last meeting, Public Health and Safety has the fly-in outfit made an application to have another fly-in in September.
It is my understanding that they were applying to the airport board. They won't be applying to the city because per the interlocal, we give them that responsibility.
Okay.
We do have a request that we are listed as an insured on that when they do that.
And so then, because of that, you'll be notified?
We will be notified.
Okay, thank you.
The last thing I want to add is this is the second February meeting, which means March is next month. And this might be getting a little bit ahead of that, but just historically speaking, the end of March is when we start to see the potential for bear activity in town. So as we get into next month, please make sure that your can is working properly, that trash is stored inside of the can, and that the bear attractants are not out drawing in the bear. I saw some interesting video of mountain lions walking through people's yards this week as well, right here in downtown. But if your trash can is not functioning, if the little lever inside is not working, we do have replacement levers now at City Hall. Public Works has those, and so they are working to get those replaced. So you can either call the front office or you can go online and register that your trash can is not functioning, and they'll come out and get that replaced. So again, we've got a month to basically get ahead of that. All right, anything else from council that I failed to address? All right, hearing that, what we will do is we will go into public comment. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling up my timer here, make sure my phone is quieted down. This is the first of a few public comments. We'll have just a generic anything that is in the council's purview now, and then we will have another one at the end of the meeting as well. In addition to that, each of the items that are listed as action items in section 8, and number 8 tonight, there will be a public hearing before action is taken by the council. And so with that, we'll go ahead and open up public comment. I'll look first to the chambers to see if there's anybody who'd like to comment here, and then we'll move to online. I'm not seeing anybody standing up here, so let's look to online, either looking for a raised hand or an unmuted mic or turning on a camera. Judy, did you have something you wanted to say to council? Oh, it went away. All right. Going once, twice, 3 times, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. As we move on to the action items, I will entertain a motion for ordinance number 974 and request that the motioner include second reading.
I can do it. I move to approve ordinance number 974, an ordinance of the City of Red Lodge restricting the use of tobacco products, vaping, e-cigarettes, and smoking in city parks and recreational facilities. Second reading.
Oh, I second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Daniels and an I second from Councilmember Rood. Discussion at the table.
We had our first reading of the the first reading at our previous meeting. Basically, this is in lieu of the public health nurse and directive under the county, just to keep the welfare of our public spaces clean. Does that make sense?
Okay. And I'll add that what it does is it generically applies to city-owned public parks. And one of the advantages of that is as new parks are developed, they're automatically covered by that envelope. Any other discussion at the table? Councilmember Tupin.
I apologize because I missed the last meeting, but I remember when this was first brought up, asking why it was written as recreational facilities versus city recreational facilities, and I feel like there's been some discussion on that, but I'm still wondering why we're not just for clerically putting that as city-owned recreational facilities. The way it reads to me, if someone has playground equipment in their backyard, they can't be smoking on it.
So when it came up and you weren't here, it came up as there was a discussion about city-owned land, and then it was pointed out that the Silver Strike is actually city-owned land, and so we did not want to change it to include Silver Strike and parking lot. So that is why that was not included in there.
Gotcha, okay.
So, I'm sorry.
I don't think that addresses my issue as much.
Right.
but,
Yeah.
And I do see what you're saying, because recreational facilities were then saying that we're going to impose this, and they probably already do at the high school, but.
They do, and that's their job, but.
And more
Right,
so,
but we're now making it our job.
City parks,
it could be,
So, it's and.
okay.
And council certainly has the option of making a motion and doing city-owned recreational facilities. That'll just turn this into a first reading, and then we repeat it. And that's
I
okay.
feel really bad for extending it out, but I'd rather it say that,
Yeah.
because
No.
the way it's written now makes it sound like, again, I know my parents have playground equipment in their backyard for my niece, and I know my dad would lose his mind. And it's not like I expect the cops to come knocking on their door like, you can't do that, but just, if we're gonna do it, we should do it right.
Do you have a proposed wording so that it does not include the Silver Strike? Because a city-owned recreational facility would include the Silver Strike.
Wouldn't that be?
Why don't we just take it out?
Can we just take it out?
Take number 2 out?
Yes.
Because we just want all city-owned designated parks.
What was the purpose of putting recreational facilities in the first place? Do we know?
Just in case there's recreational facilities that aren't in a park, which is very slim in view.
And in fairness, this is now applying to all parks, so
Yeah, I think just keep it in the
what
park.
is council's pleasure?
can we move to just strike out?
Strike all instances of, motion to amend, make a motion to amend, to read ordinance number 974 to
Just,
strike any and all instance of and recreational facilities, or just recreational facilities.
just strike number 2.
Well, also you need to take it out of the heading.
I was looking at the heading, but I was not.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, striking recreational facilities from the heading, from City Code 549, no tobacco products within city parks and recreational facilities, within the first paragraph where it says recreational facilities. So I think just take out all instances of recreational facilities and item number 2. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin and a second from Councilmember Ronning. And then, when we get back to the make action, to the main motion, it'll just be first reading.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, no, that's all right.
Thank you.
The conversation came up last week, but nobody could remember anything other than we didn't want it to be Silver Strike, so.
Yeah, I was like, I remember having this conversation like multiple weeks ago, and I was like, I thought we had taken care of that, but.
So just to be clear, I have it in the title, I have it in the code section,
And then
and then number 2.
Yeah, just basically going through.
Is there any place else that
Here.
you're seeing? Here doesn't work.
Ordinance
The second.
number 974.
Yep, got that one.
First paragraph under ordinance 974, or city code 5.
Oh, and recreational facilities, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 edits counting the title.
I think that's it.
I got the, wait,
Pardon?
okay, so we have the title,
I can give you my copy when we're done. The
Okay.
title, City Code 549,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
the next paragraph,
Yep.
after that, the end of that sentence, right before within 20 feet,
okay,
Yep.
and then number 2.
got it,
Perfect,
yep, we're good.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion at the table?
Otherwise, I highly support this.
Thank you, because I did not remember that in the conversation.
What
but
I'm
I
going
agree
to
with
do, if, with council's blessing, is I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment before we move on the amendment as well, and then we'll just do one public comment, and we'll take a vote on the amendment after we bring it back, and then move to the main motion.
Sounds good.
Okay? So with that, let me go ahead and open up public comment. This is public comment specifically in regards to ordinance number 974, restricting the use of tobacco products in public parks. Looking to the room, please step up.
Roger Mullendorf, 510 South Platte Avenue. I want to thank the council for passing this ordinance. I think it's going to be really advantageous keeping our parks clean and our recreational facilities that happen to be in our parks clean as well. So thank you very much. I was going to make a suggestion that you change the term frisbee golf to just disc golf, but with your changes, you don't need to do that. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Looking to the chamber.
Becky Larson, 415 North Hauser. I also want to thank you for passing this because I appreciate that. It's never fun to have cigarette butts hanging around and things like that. However, I also want to open it up to concerns with when you have special events and alcohol. When you have alcohol, you have tobacco, and it just happens that way. So it's going to be something that as a city, you guys are going to have to pay close attention to the fact that when there is a special event going on, and there's alcohol involved, you can absolutely be positively sure that there's going to be some vaping and cigarettes and everything else. So just a thought and something to think about when we open up special events for alcohol. Thank you,
Becky. Looking to the chamber for additional public comment. Seeing none in the chamber, I'm looking to online. Going once, twice, 3 times. We'll go ahead and close public discussion on that item and bring it back to the table. Just to make it official, oh, go ahead, Councilmember Root.
What are we doing about signage? To Becky's concern and other people's concern, not just Becky, but other people's concerns and about events and farmers market and.
I think we can address that. It's not covered in the ordinance, but I think that's just a follow-up from a city administration standpoint to make sure we have appropriate signage out there.
Okay. I think it's something we need to address because she's right. Smoking and drinking.
Buddies.
Buddies.
And they might not be aware that it's not allowed in the
If I'm
park.
drinking,
They
why can't I
might not
smoke?
know.
Kind of a thing.
So signage would help.
I don't smoke in the bars, so.
Yeah, you can.
Again, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying.
I think that's an administrative action to follow this, and I don't think it needs to be included in the resolution, but thank you. I agree completely.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm done.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion to get rid of the recreational facilities? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Daniels?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Ruth?
Yes.
Stupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion to amend passes. Just to make it official, I think we could probably do it as well, let me pause for just a moment. Are you comfortable just changing frisbee golf to disc golf, or would you rather have an amendment?
You don't have to worry about it.
We're cutting that out.
Oh, because we got rid of it altogether. Never mind. Thank you for pointing that out. I missed that part. I'm adopted. All right, that takes us to the main motion, and the motion was actually for second reading, and I think it can still be the second reading. What happens is we'll just have a second reading. It has to have 2 readings before it's done. So this is second reading, so we're fine with that, but there will be another reading to follow this at the next meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we'll have 2 second readings. You just have to have the same twice. Any other further discussion at the table? Councilmember Running.
I still think this is gonna be very hard to enforce. And,
Okay.
and I don't, and I understand having it and having signs up is great, but, I don't want a big expectation of this being enforced a lot.
Being 100% enforced?
Yeah,
Like
Exactly.
speeding tickets and stop signs?
And fireworks.
Fireworks?
Yeah, and everything else. I mean, it's just, I'm fine with putting up signs and stuff, but to Becky's point, I mean, yeah, if you have an event going on, people chew, people vape, people use Zens, you know, it's different than, you know, having a cigarette hanging out of their mouth versus the other things that are a little less noticeable, so.
Having it's better than not having it, maybe.
At least, I mean, you'll have a sign up, I guess, but I don't want this, you know.
Again, I'm of the ilk of have the ordinance, so that way if someone is being particularly obscene about it, you have some repercussion versus saying like, then we will come back and say, this is absolutely allowed, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
It's, again, I will refrain from saying the law that I think should exist, that I've quoted several times. But-
Yeah.
And also, just a note on this does not prohibit Zins.
Yes, it does.
No, because it's not
Doesn't?
tobacco, it's nicotine. So
It's
just
strictly
FYI,
tobacco.
in terms of how it's
Okay.
written, it doesn't prohibit
So
Zins.
it doesn't prohibit nicotine, it's just tobacco.
Mhm.
Okay. Perfect.
And nicotine inhaled products, but not sipped products.
Okay.
Well, this is, yeah, there we go, okay. All right, any other discussion at the table? Are we ready to call question on the motion?
Yeah.
All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Daniels?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. And it will be back on the agenda next week with those edits in it. In 2 weeks is what I meant, is our next
See if I
council
can
meeting.
come up with anything else. No.
Keep it
All
on
right.
there forever.
I will entertain a motion for resolution 3729.
I move to approve resolution number 3729, a budget amendment, a resolution amending appropriations and reserves for various funds for fiscal year 2025.
I will second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Daniels. Discussion at the table. And let me start that by just having Lonnie give us a quick summary of this. We talked about it last week, but you remind folks who weren't here last week.
Yeah, so this is, when the auditors came and did the audit, they did some adjustments, which are not findings or anything, it's just an adjustment. With that adjustment, though, it did change a budget line for the EDA and put it over what we had anticipated the budget. So this is just fixing that, so it's not in the hole. We've already received the money for it, so.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion at the table before we go to public comment? All right, hearing none, let's go to public comment that is specific to Resolution 3729, a budget amendment. Looking to the floor? Seeing none, going to online? Raise a hand, turn on a camera, unmute a mic. I'm seeing none of the above. Going once, twice, 3 times to make it official. We'll go ahead and close the public comment on the budget amendment. Any further discussion at the table? Can I get a roll call, please?
Daniels?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. I will entertain a motion for Resolution 3731.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 3731, a resolution of the City of Red Lodge authorizing the memorandum of understanding between the City of Red Lodge and Red Lodge Disc Golf. This resolution is...
Just make the motion first.
Can I just do that? Okay, yes.
I'll second.
Thank
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin, a second from Councilmember Daniels. Councilmember Tupin.
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign off on a memorandum of understanding between Red Lodge Disc Golf and the City of Red Lodge. There's been a lot of time and energy put into this, specifically from Parks and Melissa and Tom and Red Lodge Disc Golf, and I appreciate everyone's patience as well as hard efforts. We did review this one last time yesterday at our land use and planning meeting and did have a couple of minor amendments to make to the MOU. So if we look at Red Lodge Disc Golf, their responsibilities, number 6, we would like that to read, move baskets move basket positions between pre-designated positions as needed to reduce erosion. The locations will not be changed from those designated in Appendix A without provisional approval by the city. So essentially, in the map that they provided, there are multiple pin or basket locations. Apologies, I'm a golfer, and the golf lingo does come into play. But the basket locations have been designated, the two different alternatives within this map. So essentially, those will be approved as of right now, and so they'll be able to move those and relocate those to those two locations without any further approval and as they deem necessary. Number 16, Red Lodge Disc Golf will work with the city to move any holes located with a non-park designated location as shown in Appendix A, if and when needed. So essentially, when going through the map, there's several holes that are in city-owned land, but they're not park designated land. And the reasoning, we just want to make a point of mentioning that they may have to relocate these at sometime in the future, is not that we have any intention to do anything with that land at this point, but there is a reason this wasn't designated as park before, because the city does see potential, either monetary value or potential use for this, whether it's for the recycling facility, or just having that great access to Hagen's there. So we just want to make sure that if it is needed at some point in the future, that it's notated in here so we don't have to completely redo the MOU or amend it at that time and it's something functional. Yes, sir.
Councilmember, I just wanted to add, and I do note that we have Melissa and representatives from Red Lodge Disc Golf online. That number 16 is a new number. So what they came up with, land use and planning, is basically duplicating what was there that said Red Lodge Disc Golf will work to remove hole number 10 if and when it becomes necessary. And so that just impacts the numbering from here on. I just wanted to kind of call that out.
Fair.
I had extra copies and for the folks. Roger has one from the Parks Board here, and then I'll yield back to you.
And then last bit is number 18. So what would have been, yeah.
But it's also a new insert.
Also a new bullet point, we'll call it. Organizers for any organized Red Lodge Disc Golf events will complete a use of city-owned land application and provide insurance as required by the city when required. So only for events that require an application and insurance. No daily use fee will be required for those events hosted by Red Lodge Disc Golf on the Shaft Disc Golf Course. So essentially, if they have any other additional events, there's usually, with any of our parks, there's an event application as well as required insurance. And we just want to make sure that is included on here, that they are not exempt from that as well. And also to differentiate from the item above that says that they will be providing insurance on top of the city's policy for any of their events that they have and any of their tournaments, games, uses. Yes, Cinda.
Were we, also, I didn't know if the liability, the insurance.
So that is, we're going to keep both.
Okay.
Originally, we had discussed removing the dollar amount, but then it was brought to our attention that this is essentially additional insurance that's just provided whenever there's activities happening underneath the, Professional Disc Golf Association.
So a similar one is like the soccer folks have a separate policy that they have as part of Montana Soccer Association or whatever it is. And part of what happened, and I had gone back and forth in email a few times with Melissa, and Melissa was calling this out and I was being dense, that this is the equivalent of that soccer policy that they have.
Okay.
But that's separate, because my response is, if you're doing an organized event and you do a large event, and we have something that you list the city as a covered policy, and that's all those insurance policies that we have for all of our events, the only party it's covered is the city. If you run and leap and go through somebody's windshield, you're not covered, their windshield's not covered, but if somebody sues the city's covered. So these are two separate policies.
Okay.
One is the one that they have as part of their organization, and then the second is just making sure that they meet the same requirements that every other event has throughout the city.
So essentially, we're doubling up on the insurance, making sure that there's no misinterpretation that they might be exempt because of that other policy either. So,
Got it.
so that way we don't have that same confusion down the road.
And Councilmember Ronning raised a point earlier when we handed this out with the edits in it, so we could have a discussion, that what we were doing is, and again, this is one that I kind of did after the discussion last night, is that we would have them complete a use of city-owned land. And what she pointed out is that we don't necessarily have everybody complete a use of city-owned land, and sometimes they just, it's a notify us. And I had done it, there's just not a fee charged, mostly just to make sure all the blanks are filled in, but.
And that's why I added when required, just because that is something that we require for everybody. So again, example being the garden club, they
Yeah.
notify, but if they were having a large-scale event that required an application, then they would have to submit that. So essentially, this is saying that if you have 75 people for a disc golf event, then you will still need to submit that application.
Okay.
Yes, Jody?
I just wanted to say, you still need insurance.
Yes, correct.
So
Yep.
be careful of where you put that if required, because you always need insurance for an event, whether it's under 75 or over 75 people.
So now here's my next question then. Do you
I don't know
require
that that's a true
insurance?
It is,
statement.
it
Garden
is true.
club?
We have it in our ordinance, that if it's under 75 people, you have to show proof of insurance. Whether it's you're reserving the gazebo, then you show your homeowner's insurance
Okay,
policy.
that was gonna be my question.
Yeah, so it just, so it is there.
So yeah, when required, we still cover that. If it's
Okay.
required in another ordinance, then it makes it still
Okay.
required, so.
So
Okay.
where would you put that when required
I
in
put
here?
it right after required by the city.
Number 18,
Mhm.
page 3.
Required by the city when required?
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of required, but hey, you have to throw me on the
When
spot
it's
right
required,
beforehand.
required.
Okay, so after application, when required, and provide insurance as required.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, that
Any
makes sense.
further discussion at the table before I, Councilmember Davis?
Just minor grammar edits or whatever. The city on page 1, under witnesses, the first sentence. City, is that supposed to be capitalized to match the rest?
No,
Okay.
most of them are not supposed to be capitalized, but if it's grammatical, you can just circle those in and
Yeah,
turn
so
it in.
there's two grammatical.
Coal miners.
We had
Okay.
noted,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
Mhm.
I just want to bring attention to it.
So, yes, I would like to move this forward for vote with the MOU as amended,
Including your amended.
including my amended, including Patty's, grammatical edit, or
Okay.
any grammatical edits, yeah.
Okay. If I can get you to hold for just a second, what we'll do is because the original motion wasn't as amended, so we'll do an amendment with all the yellow stuff and just include that.
Sure.
But before we do that, Melissa, are you able to come online for a moment, share your camera, or at least unmute and offer questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm here.
Anything we said there that didn't make sense?
No, I think we're good. The only events that we would be hosting would be tournaments, from what I can see, and they would be PDGA sanctioned tournaments, which is where the insurance comes into play. But I understand the here and there, and we would apply for an application if we thought we were going to have more than 75 people or whatever the requirements are. So I understand.
And the major thing of reserving it is just to make sure that you don't show up and find out somebody else is taking it over with their family reunion that day.
Right, yeah, no.
Which is why we did that without having a fee associated with that. So you guys are just filling out the paperwork so we get you on the books and get it reserved for you.
And other regular play, for example, league play that is just a pickup game or advertised but no fees and people come and go and it's used at your own risk, then there's no.
Yeah, you just
that's
show up and
regular
use it if
use.
it's available.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Makes sense. And I just going to the edits and the corrections, just to be sure who is making those, and are we still waiting on something from the high school, or has that been taken care of?
We got a ruling from our city attorney that you still need to have that, and that is one of the things that's here, but it does not preclude us from moving forward with this. It's just on your to-do list to get it taken care of still.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yep, and then
All
on
right.
the edit, On the edits question, just let me know if I am editing the final document or you
Oh,
are
oh.
editing it before we
Gotcha.
sign.
No, we'll take care of all of the remaining edits here. We've actually already edited the document. You just weren't here to receive a hard copy. But I'll
Okay.
send you over a copy when we're done as well.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and we'll close that. Any questions at the table then? Can I get you to move to amend as presented with your change as well?
I move to approve,
To amend?
to amend, memorandum of understanding between the City of Red Lodge and Red Lodge Disc Golf as presented.
I will second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin to modify the MOU and a second from Councilmember Daniels. Discussion at the table? All right. Not hearing any, we're going to go to public comment. And this can be on the amendment or on the main motion, because when we bring it back, I'll plan on moving forward with both of them. So public comment, looking first to the room. Seeing no action in the room, looking to online. Going once, twice, 3 times. Thank you for being here. All right, bring it back to the table. Any further discussion before a question is called? All right, let's go ahead and do a roll call on the amendment to the MOU itself.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Rooney?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, motion to amend the MOU is approved. Now we're back to the main motion, which is the resolution. I would like to point out that there is just a grammatical error in the final paragraph that says attached rather than attached memorandum. That doesn't require an action, but any further discussion at the table before we move on the resolution to approve? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Rooney?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. Thank you very much. All right. Resolution, I will entertain a motion for resolution 3730.
I move to approve resolution number 3730, resolution to authorize submission of a MSTEP application for the purpose of constructing Phase 4 stormwater system improvement.
Have a motion?
A second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table. I will just add that from a budgetary progression standpoint, this is likely going to be an application for work that's happening like in 27 or 28. So this is not anything we're doing this year. This is just on the front end of a grant cycle. You'll recall we did the PER a little bit back and said we're going to go to try to chase down money. This is that process. Any further discussion at the table before we go to public comment? All right, public comment specifically tied to the MSTEP application. Looking to the room. Seeing none in the room, going to online. Tom, I see an unmuted mic. Did you want to speak, sir, on this motion?
Sorry, negative.
All right. It's all right. Going once. Going twice. 3 times, we'll bring it back to the table. Any further discussion at the table? Can I get a roll call, please?
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Rooney?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, that completes the action portion of our menu. If we schedule these at dinner time, there's certain things we have to expect. All right, so what we'll do next is we'll go through our standing committees. We'll each talk about the things that are in progress and moving toward the action agenda. And again, those standing committee meeting times are published on the agenda that goes out on Friday, as well as the agendas for each of those. Those times are there. I'll point out that 3 of those are now on Monday. 1 of them is on Tuesday. And that's actually kind of nice because that gave us a chance to get all the stuff that came up last night on the Disc Golf MOU incorporated into that. So there's some benefits. We'll make it work for us. With that, let's start with public health and safety. And for that, we will look for Committee Chair Daniels to update us.
Yes. So bear with me. Okay, so we, basically, we talked about a traffic sign request process and what that's gonna look like. Luckily, Mike Maples came in. I guess it was discussed also at Public Works, my understanding. But it looks like he's come up with some ideas to collect data and kind of work from there, deciding what is feasible and what locations actually are gonna require some sort of traffic, control, whether it's stop signs or whatnot. Yeah, he brought forth, there's some certain things that'll work, either a radar or camera, and I think he's gonna go through and see cost-wise, which one's more beneficial, which one's more feasible, that we can afford. We talked about how, Chief Schrock is also working with him, and he's able to take his incidents, off of his computer and put it into the GIS system that Maples has, and they can work together on that. He did throw out some pretty interesting statistics, because he's been pulling reports from January 2020 up until present. And so gave us some numbers. I think he said there was about around 7,700 traffic violations. I was impressed because in 6 years, there's only 32 reckless driving incidents, and
He's been following me.
right? And then there was I think there's only around 1,100 traffic citations. These were actual citations that were given, and then he did go into notify or explain that, you know, they could be classified as one and then move to a different classification later on. But still, I was, you know, for 6 years, I felt like that was not that bad. So yeah, other than that, pretty much what we talked about.
Okay. And I'll just add a little bit to that. The origination of that kind of came from the past conversations we've had about additional stop signs and or flashing lights around signs or flashing speed signs, and just looking for a consistent way. And basically what we did is we reached out to our planner and kind of said, you know, what are the other municipalities doing? And part of it was you get the data, and then they have a book that you go, well, it's a very big book that goes through and says, this is what requires, this is when the numbers justify putting in an additional stop sign, or doing that. And as we started to look at some of the equipment that's required to get the early part of that data, it's kind of like, this may be cheaper if we anticipate we're gonna do more than 2 of these things to just get our own equipment, and then we can use it going forward. So we're at the starting edge of that, looking at that. Some of it has to do with the cost and whether it'll qualify as resort tax or will it need to come out of the street. Before we spend any money, of course, it'll be something that comes to council as in the form of our budget. So it's a good start though, and I think we're moving toward what we're striving for, which is a predictable, do it the same today, tomorrow, 4 months from now for the situation we haven't thought of. So. All right, any other questions for public health and safety?
Can I say something? Just,
Yes.
I was at the meeting and, I was at the meeting when Mike talked about this new system last night and today at 2 different meetings, and I think judging from the response, a positive response, that he's going to move forward on this, but that does not, mean that we don't keep looking for a 4-way stop at Skate Park Boulevard. There were 2 incidents this week, and I just want to say that this is still a concern of a lot of us. And then also, you should have gotten a letter from Chris Cogswell about the airport.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure you all got that.
Yes, we did. We handed it out here, and also we provided the clerk with one, so it'll be in the packet.
Okay, but it's extraordinary, the information that these radar or camera data systems can give us. Is exciting. So,
And just to get ahead of the public, there's actually a couple of other benefits to the city that they can do as well, as far as like traffic, as they're coming through town, as it's stopping in town. But one of the things that is I want to make sure it gets out there before the rumor mill takes it in an entirely not true direction. It does not do license plate recognition. Per Montana code, we have an elevated level of privacy. So if there's anybody concerned about if we're putting up cameras or putting up radars to help do traffic studies and whatnot, it will not be tracking individual license plate numbers and such. So just kind of get ahead of that. All right. Anything else for public health and safety? All right. Hearing none, we will go to admin and finance, and for that we will look to Committee Chair Ronnie.
So, in your packet, we have our city council rules and procedures. We had some highlighted changes there. We went over that, during our meeting. So I'd just kind of like to briefly go through those right now. The first highlighted area is, of course, the date. We'll be changing that date to whenever we, approve these changes. The second highlighted, section was on page 2 of 7, where it currently says the mayor shall decide all 3 tied votes. And we'd like to change that to may, just so that it reinforces the fact that the mayor does not have to break a tie, because the shall is kind of giving direction that you shall break the tie, and he doesn't do that. So we have to work hard to get we haven't really had to yet, but you're supposed to work hard to make sure you have 4 yes votes and have come to some type of consensus and compromise on those. And I think we've done a really great job of doing that since I've been on council, and a lot of you have been on council, so we work really well together to do that. And then, let's see, and Chelsea, please step in with your notes here too if I forget anything. So on section 6, we have the standing committee meetings will be open to the public and public participation will be encouraged. And what we wanted, how did we change that? We wanted it so that if you have something new that's not on the agenda, you could come to the public, to the committee meeting and bring it up. So we have wording, and I think Chelsea wrote it down.
I was thinking you had it in here. The public has to make comments as detailed in the agenda or when addressed by the committee, or in public comments, and just want to add that to the end of that?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, and so specifically, we just want to make sure that people felt like they were able to come with anything. It doesn't have to be specific to what's on the agenda. And part of our conversation was making sure that it is included on the agenda, that there will be public comment. Because the way that it's written in pretty much all of our steering committee meetings is there's a final section that's 15 minutes will be reserved for public comment, which that's not
like
15 minutes, but we are always willing to say.
But you do have public comment in there, so you just need to make sure that you're wrapping up at 45 minutes in
or more so, just making
direction.
sure that we always have that public comment there at the end of the agenda to allow the opportunity for people to speak on something
That's
that
not
is,
on.
and as long as it pertains to that steering committee, or if they think it does, because there's been times where people have come to certain meetings and we have specifically said, sorry, this isn't really necessarily it's not necessarily land use and planning, you might want to go to public health and safety, or we'll bring this to their attention, one or the other. So,
and we had a good example of that today at the meeting just prior to this, where somebody came and at the public comment said, I want to throw this in the hopper for future meetings, so.
I think that's a great way to do it. And again, it's appreciated because during those steering committee meetings, we actually have an opportunity to have conversations and I think that's crucial for the process, so.
And so that's just one additional edit beyond
Right.
what we have in front of us that'll be there for next time.
Yes. Okay, and then the next page, where we talk about the minutes, each standing committee shall be required to record legally sufficient minutes. We're going to also include AI summary in that, and which will be reviewed and approved by the committee. And then we were also going to take out distributed with city council packets, because we don't do that. They'd be a month behind. So we just want that the minutes shall be maintained by the city clerk, available online or hard copy to the public as requested. So.
And that's as approved? Does it address the as approved?
As approved. Yeah, it says reviewed and approved by the committee. And the minutes shall be maintained online or hard copy available. Okay, and then.
Councilmember, did I see a hand on that one, or?
No, okay. Okay, and then the next one was on page 4 of those council rules and procedures. We're just going to match the mayor's agenda to what we are currently doing, which is, number 8, public comment should just be public comment, not public comment on the agenda. And number 12 will just be public comment, not public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. So we're just removing those 2 things. And on the next one, this was league wording apparently. It's on page 6 of 7. Prepared statements are welcomed and should be given to the clerk of council. Prepared statements that are also read, however, shall be deemed unduly repetitious. All prepared statements shall become a part of the hearing record. We're taking that out because...
Just that the prepared statements are read will be deemed unduly repetitious?
Yeah, we're taking that out, and we're just going to add that there's a 3-minute time limit per person on all public comments. Because we feel, we as council, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who disagrees with this, that it's your 3 minutes and you can get up and say whatever you want for 3 minutes. If you want to read your prepared statement, that's fine with us, so.
And if you want to read it at multiple meetings in a row, and I think the one example was somebody wants to get up and read the first 3 pages of Dr. Seuss, that's
great.
their,
As long as they finish it by the next meeting.
I'll be curious to see what they come up with at the league conference that I'm at, next week, because there is I think there's some Robert's rules that it has to have some level of pertaining to what the meeting is, but I think we just trust whoever's running the meeting to kind of rein that in if there's or know that it'll only last for 3 minutes if not.
Yeah, I mean, there were actually cases, I believe, that I've seen where, the city councils were trying to stop certain public comments from happening, and they got sued.
As they should.
And I'm like, I think it's 3 minutes, and you get to say whatever you want to say. You can call it every minute.
We've said a very assertive, it's your 3 minutes, you get to speak.
Please, don't.
Dave, you're ugly and your mother dresses you funny, thank you. Next.
Okay, and the last thing I had highlighted there, I thought I had taken out, page 7 of 7. I just had misread it. I thought that it was saying that we have to have it done within 12 calendar days for the second reading, but it's not. It's at least 12 calendar days. So please disregard my highlight on that. So,
okay.
Any other changes that anyone sees, or do you are you okay with those changes? Please speak now, or...
Are we okay moving that forward for action at the next meeting then?
Okay, perfect.
I'm good with that. The one question is, can we also make these modifications? I noticed that there's guidelines for public participation now on our agenda. And it also repeats some of the same points that we've just made. So I'm assuming that will be modified as well.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, perfect. And then, let me just get into my notes for admin agenda, because we did talk about most everything else we've already voted on action, so I'm not going to reiterate that. We did talk about the Main Street program, and having the city, assist with that, possibly creating a resolution so that it does become a city board. The Main Street program itself would work on bylaws to determine what that board would be made up as. So we'll need bylaws, and we already have representation from the city on that board. We have 2 city council people, Chelsea and myself, and Brian Hanna is also attending those meetings. So there's also chamber representation, community foundation representation, and then some citizen representation with a lot of help. So, and that's our Montana Main Street program, and Red Lodge is, we're a member of that, and that does open us up to some great resources, including some grant funding for our downtown area. And then the short-term rental good neighbor policy. Do you want to chat about that?
So now that we've passed some of our short-term rental ordinances and registration ordinances, there were the good neighbor policy, which I believe we passed 2 years ago.
Over a year
ago. It was waiting to be distributed to the short-term rental operators, specifically because there's links provided within that good neighbor policy that refer to those ordinances that were not yet completed. And some of the ordinances how they were quoted in the good neighbor policy included some of those changes. We were working on basically 3 documents at once, trying to get them all out at the same time, and clearly we crushed that.
2 years, so we got it done.
So basically, we just want to make sure now that those are in place, that those edits take place within the good neighbor policy, and that gets distributed out, because it is within our ordinance that those are required in all short-term rentals within city limits.
Perfect. And then, we had a brief discussion, we have 2, funding mechanisms up in admin and finance. We have the, police department would like to do a public health and safety mill levy, and then we're also working on the annexation of the city of Red Lodge into the Red Lodge Rural Fire Department. So neither one of these will be done in time for next year's budget. By July, one of them would take a vote of the people, the public health and safety mill levy, and in order to annex into the city of Red Lodge, into Red Lodge Rural Fire Department, it's actually a petition of 40% of the property owners in the city of Red Lodge that account for 40% of the value of the property. So they're 2 totally different things, and what we kind of decided on is that we would work on both. Obviously, I don't think that we would expect or even want necessarily for both to pass. So it's going to be kind of an either-or thing, like which one's going to pass first type of thing. So just, we're not deliberately going to go out there and try to, drum up, 60 more mills or 50 more mills from people. So, it's going to be an either-or type of thing. So.
Can I add some
Yes,
additional
of course.
coloring? I don't agree that it's an either-or. I think there's a very clear Plan A, which is the annexation that addresses multiple problems. In fact, we got a summary today from the, I think it was a couple of you had reached out to the planner, and the planner had written a response back on the fire annexation as the correct one. But basically, there's a mills-based obligation, which is very, very problematic, which we already knew. And so I would say that the safety levy that was brought up by our police chief is a fallback plan. What we agreed to do is find out when the deadline is of when that language has to be prepared to make it onto the ballot. And if we have not been successful, it doesn't look like we're making headway on the other, then we would bring that to council about whether we want to put that other one on the ballot. But I think the fire annexation is the right, it's something that's been, it was on, even on my first term in council, the discussion was there. I plan on kind of bringing a draft presentation at the next admin meeting, where we can kind of start getting ready about how we're going to prepare and get that communicated and presented to the city. But I don't view the 2 options as at all equal. So I just want to add a distinction there.
Okay, but
Yes.
so the committee disagrees with the mayor. Here's either or for you, and it's not either or for the mayor. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. Obviously, number one, the Admin and Finance Committee has been very adamant that we do not agree with how we are paying our fire department contract at this time, because it's 28 mills every year out of our general fund. And what we bring in property taxes is mill-based. And the higher the value of the mill, the fewer mills we can assess. But yet, we're taking 28 of those, 72 mills or something like that we got? We're taking 28 of that mills of our property taxes and giving it, and paying for our fire services, which we're contracted to do. So, if we had 90 mills still, like we did when it was first created, the 28 mills, it was a lot less of our budget.
Yep.
And so as our mills that we can assess goes down because the property value of it goes up, the value of the mill goes up, the more of our, the higher the percentage that we're paying for our fire department. So we've always been adamant that that's not sustainable. So we've said over and over again that if we do not annex into Red Lodge Rural Fire Department, which will take us, the city will not be paying for the fire services out of our general fund anymore, that if that doesn't happen, we need to reevaluate that contract with the fire department and make it a set dollar amount with regular increases, like every other contract that we have is, like with our garbage or and things like that. We did agree in admin and finance that the public health and safety mill levy would be looked at seriously if we are not making progress on the annexation, because something has to happen. It's been going on forever.
Yeah, is there gonna be a limit to this, because this has been going on forever?
If we do not have the annexation, we would have a resolution coming to the city of Red Lodge, and the petition started. We do not have that started by the deadline for public health and safety mill levy. The public health and safety mill levy will be on the ballot in November.
Okay, all right.
Does that sound okay? Okay with you guys? Okay.
And to me, that sounded like we said the same thing, so I just want to make sure we're clear.
Well, you may have thought it.
But I kind of wonder why this is taking so long, the annexation thing. That's just don't need an answer tonight. It has been going on.
I can kind of answer that a little bit. There always seems to be something that happens that we just decide it's not the right time.
Or it's, when it comes to the admin and finance, a very large section of the year and our time is utilized for budget season. And so literally that is part of it as well, is just time restrictions. I mean, as much as I would love to be able to commit 80 hours a week into writing resolutions, that's kind of it.
Well, and
last year when we got started, we actually got started down the ballot option for the fire annexation, which turns out is not a ballot option for that.
Well, and I would also, admin and finance would love to have help from public health and safety on doing this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So, yeah, so, because there's gonna be a story for either one of these that we have to, for both the public health and safety mill levy and for the fire annexation, that we have to tell our taxpayers why they should do this. What are we gonna do with this money? It's not going to be just a slush fund. It will be used, regardless of which one of these we do, it will be used to hire another police officer. And why do we need that police officer? And I know the chief has said he has so many stories to tell about why they need another police officer. So it really is going to be about, how will that extra money be spent that we have in the general fund? I mean, we need it desperately, but, exactly what will our taxpayers get for that money? What services can they expect to have?
I think it's going to be hard to explain it to the taxpayers about the annexation, I think. And so you really have to have it, not documented, but you've got to explain it.
Clearly illustrated.
There are no, like I was telling people, John Fitzgerald had pictures of old boilers, which helped him get his thing, but we don't have pictures of anything. It's just this abstract, money, but there's nothing to.
So part of what we would be able to do with the public health and safety mill levy, what you basically would be paying for is the extra officer.
Yeah.
With the annexation, there's the possibility of, because it frees up and can be used for a lot of other things as well. You'd still get the other officer, but we also are looking at hiring a city administration, a city administrator type position, or an in-house city planner, either one of those. And we could also look at, although the chief says they've been trying to do a lot more enforcement, but by having that city administrator, they would be able to direct, what they want enforced. It wouldn't just be parking tickets and things like that, but there's a lot of other things city residents would love to see us enforce that are not they're not at the top of the priority list. Those are the type of stories. How would we use that money?
Yeah.
And that's all I have. If anyone else has any questions, I don't want to keep rambling on here.
I don't public health and safety, but I'd be happy to, because of course I need to understand it better too. If I don't understand it, I can't.
Right.
So.
Those are hard to explain.
Yes.
All right, any other questions for admin and finance? And it was mentioned, we're kind of getting into moving into the time of year, by the time we hit May, it's gonna be, a lot of our stuff is based around admin and finance and budget, so. I will add there that the preliminary budget requests have gone out to all of the department heads. So that process has begun. It will be many moons before it is done, but it has begun. All right. Next, we will go to land use and planning, and for that, we will look to Committee Chair Tupin.
Yeah, so we discussed, obviously, the disc golf MOU, made those amendments. I'm very happy to see that moving forward. And then we also had discussion on the MOU for Red Lodge Ice. There's actually 2 different copies in the packet, and I feel like that is worth explaining to folks. Because I had the same level of confusion when there were 2, and I'm like, wait, anyhow. So there are 2 different versions. One was put together by our city planner, the other was put together by Red Lodge Ice. Really happy with the one that was put together by our city planner and the planning department, and I think that it will do a great job of helping us move forward and getting education and information. That's really, I think, what is lacking at this point is everybody needs more information on the project to be able to make an educated decision. And this gives the opportunity for Red Lodge Ice to do that while paying for it out of their pocket, while also not committing to dedicating a certain space. So specifically, if you go through, one, this is very neat, tidy, easy to understand, so that is appreciated. It's not 20 pages of legalese. Yeah, legalese, or more so just, I don't know, unnecessary information for a plan, I guess, because that's what the next thing will be dozens and dozens and dozens of pages of information that are going to just drown us in content, and I'm thrilled for it. Genuinely excited for obscene amounts of information. So specifically going into this PAR, it's a very regulated process, which is great. So the nice thing is a PAR, the preliminary architectural report, it is regulated by the Montana Department of Commerce. So it actually has substantial rules and requirements that have to be followed. And depending on who they were to hire, because it is required that they hire a professional to put this together, they should be fairly well versed in this process to make sure that all of those requirements are met. I spoke with Jeremy Fadness today as well, and just kind of got a little bit more information from him about PAR, what we can expect, what this commits us to, what the process and timeline would look like moving forward. And that was very beneficial. But specifically, things that we can expect on PAR, again, full details of expenses for the construction, consideration of the type of use, evaluation of the feasibility, evaluation of infrastructure, regulatory considerations, so considering our city ordinances, noise ordinances, traffic, parking requirements, our zoning codes, if it would require conditional uses and conditional permitting on top of that. This would be a very in-depth evaluation, and exactly what it would be is a planning document and a decision-making document, as he referred to it as. So really beneficial, and I think it would help with everybody in the community to really answer a lot of the questions that we have. One of the things I was concerned about is, for me, someone who doesn't do city planning on a regular basis or at that level, very much this high level, but I asked them, I'm just like, there's a lot of things that seem vague to me, or I'd like a little bit more context, so they will be going back through this and changing some of the language to be a little bit more clear for the city planner.
Yeah, because there's 2, so I just...
Yes, and I should specify, the city planner one is the one with the blue font, so it's this one here, and then this one is actually the Red Lodge Ice.
Okay.
So, yep, I know, I thought the same thing out the gate, and so the one with blue fonts, for anyone playing along at home, that is the one done by our city planner. I will be honest, like, I think that is the direction we take. Obviously, we haven't made a decision on this left or right, but we do have them going through, specifically Jeremy, making some additional notes and some additional requirements. Specifically in item number 4, scope of work, preliminary architectural report. Number 3, the PAR shall include site analysis, conceptual alternatives, cost estimates, infrastructure. We're also providing a few other additional items that need to be included into that. Specifically, reference to master plans and studies from the city, seasonal use and feasibility, a few other additional pieces. So we'll be seeing an updated copy of this before our next council meeting. The other thing that I did have concerns about and discussed with him is making sure that we are addressing some of the items that have already been brought up. So specifically, traffic studies, noise studies, things of that nature, and things that we would like to see addressed within this PAR. There's a long, lengthy list, and his recommendation was a meeting, like a kickoff meeting with city staff, the city council, or several city council representatives, not necessarily the full council, Red Lodge, ICE, and then whoever they are using for that architectural, or either an architect or an engineer, whoever they hire for developing this PAR. And that would be an opportunity for us to essentially, my plan and what I'm going to propose is that we collect what we would like to see as essentially an addendum to the MOU of this is things that the city has voiced and the community has voiced as things that we would like addressed, and that we would appreciate it if this is something that can be addressed within this PAR. And that might be just simple evaluations. There might be some items that aren't necessarily fitting for this particular phase of the project or this PAR at this point, because one thing I also asked him was what our timeline will be. So if we were to approve this PAR, or this MOU for them to get the PAR, one, this doesn't obligate us or any city funding to the project at this time. It just essentially allows for them to provide all the information that we were really wanting at this point. From there, there'd be the opportunity where we will get that PAR, we'll get a staff report, and during that staff report, we will accept the findings. That also does not mean we're approving the ice skating rink at that point, just means we're accepting what has come to the table. Then from there, they will be able to move forward with fundraising and developing an additional MOU. That MOU will go into more detail specific to the operations, regular, what's going to be required of the city, staffing. This is the real guts, meats and potatoes of it, of how this is going to be operated daily. So while this first PAR and MOU will be more looking at the actual facility, the use of the land, the building, the cost, the estimates for that part, it won't necessarily go into the day-to-day operations. That will be the second one. So the thing I like about this is this gives us an opportunity to provide criteria for how information we need to know before we can allow something to get constructed. And before that can even get constructed, we'll also have an additional MOU for how it will be operated. So this, just to kind of give a clarification of what these steps will truly look like, I think we'll have a lot of opportunity for input. One thing that's also great with the PAR is it does have requirements for public comment. So once there's essentially this draft, it will be able to go out to the public for review and commentary. The same way if we're doing like our growth policy or any of our other master planning documents, any conditional use for city planning, all of those items. This will also go to any of our advisory boards and staff members for review. So this really is an opportunity to collect an obscene amount of information, as I said, and I'm thrilled about it, to be able to actually figure out if this is a good idea or a bad idea, which option might be better or not, what the actual cost of construction will be, what the timeline for construction, that's one of the things that we wanted added in there as well. just to really make sure that now we have a good breadth of the project and what to expect. And then even after that's done, it doesn't mean it's gonna be happening, but at least give us some detailed information for making a decision. Jody?
I just have a quick question, because we did not do this with the tennis courts at all. So, I mean, are we,
They are actually, the tennis courts are actually doing this study right now. That's what we're waiting for in their study.
but
But
we,
theirs is a little bit of the design too. So this,
Right.
where we're breaking this down into two,
Mhm.
this step and the next step got
Okay.
combined.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
but
and
we
that, and
didn't
again, that's
do-
going back to the other document that this group is working on,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that the
Right.
standing committee is working on. In fact, part of the meeting today with following last night's land use and planning meeting, Chelsea was ferociously
Right,
scribbling notes
yeah.
and stuff.
Mhm.
So she had a
Right.
follow-up meeting with our planner today, and part of it was, how do we improve, where do we learn from this in this process, and where do we learn from this in this process?
And I guess that's my question, is because I don't want, I mean, yes, this is all information we need.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have another user group that we didn't, I don't think we required the same level of.
We didn't, so we didn't require a PAR, and
Yeah.
specifically, they are doing a lot of the same things, just on a less aggressive scale, if that makes sense, but also taking into consideration the scope of each project. That tracks to me, where realistically, the tennis courts have a much softer impact within the community, and it goes to show just based off the amount of public commentary that we've received. So again, that's part of that process that we're working on, is that we are trying to figure out what level does it escalate to a PAR versus
Yeah,
an
I mean,
MOU
I-
versus, and that's still to be determined. And then, again, as I've mentioned many, many times before, this is a work in progress. We're not always gonna get it 100% right, but we're sure as hell gonna try each time. And so specifically with, the tennis courts, again, similar thing where we haven't committed actually utilizing that space. We are still requiring a lot of the same information, just not quite as the most
Right.
regulatory degree.
Well, we're-
And it's something, as we learn and move forward, it might be something that we should have required, but unfortunately, I don't have a time machine to take.
I guess, I'm sorry.
And they're actually doing the same information, they just didn't do it as a PAR.
Okay.
We didn't,
So I guess that's my question, is why are we requiring a PAR of this one and we didn't, of the tennis courts? Because they're both paving over a green space.
Well, again,
But
the
one
difference-
just happens to be in a resident, well, that's in a residential neighborhood too. I mean,
Well,
it is.
but again, so what they're doing right now is that this document has already gone out for them, and that came to council before it went out to them. That was in the MOU we approved for them.
For the tennis.
Rather than doing an MOU, what we're doing is saying this is an MOU for a PAR. We
Right,
just didn't call it,
So-
theirs was called a design
Oh.
document,
right, but you're not answering my question. Why are we requiring a PAR here and we did not for the tennis court?
because we're smarter than we were 6 months ago.
Okay, yeah, that's
Pretty
all I
much,
need to know.
Pretty much that, yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
And again, there
Okay.
will be times where there's gonna be degree of severity in terms of what is that impact going to be around the area, and that's what we're trying to figure out right now, is the intent is to have a letter of intent that will essentially help us determine what the next step will be. Is it going to be PAR level, or is it literally just going to be an approval by council? There's gonna be a large scope and range, but we're trying to create the criteria and essentially a matrix that will create a weighted scale to determine what the next step will be.
And the more specific even example is when we had the tennis one, and we sat down after council had been through it, and I sat down with Public Works. Public Works said, you've got two things come along, this should be step one and step two, and so
Right.
that's why, and so that's, when this was up for, they were going for action last time, my big pushback was, Public Works Director is not on board with it. And so we took what Red Lodge Ice had prepared for us,
Right,
we gave that to Public Works, we gave it to the planner, and said, call it a PAR, give us a, and part of that was their input was, if you're doing it as a PAR, there's a bunch of regulatory stuff that's already dictated by that. You know, it has to be a
And that's why
accredited
it could
firm,
be
it
a
has to be
2-page
a,
document versus a 30-page document.
yeah.
correct. So I just have one more comment, I'm sorry.
that's
Just,
good.
I think that the level of the PAR is going to be really based on
which site is chosen, because one site we have to completely rezone as and we have to designate it as a park. And, you know, and that's going to be a lot more involvement on recommendations, obviously, on doing that. You know, it's also going to be planning, and it's going to be city council and allowing that, so.
And that's gonna be something that's detailed within that PAR, which is really beneficial,
So-
actually, to have each of those.
So my question is, when, do we decide where it's going to be after we get this back?
Yeah, after we get this back.
Yeah.
Okay, but not before we do the next MOU on the, okay, that timeline, I just needed to, thank you.
But not before the,
The MOU on the running of it.
oh yeah, so we will, in between getting this back, the objective of this is a planning document to give council the information that they can make a decision and say, move forward in location X or move forward in location Y. And then that's, and where it came back from there was, because what we had originally talked about was, here's the development MOU, and they said, well, you don't develop until you know how it's gonna be run. You don't build something without already knowing how the day-to-day operation is gonna go.
So, next piece on that is part of, again, going to scope of work, number 3, just where it says that for you, and this is where I told him to provide a little bit more context for the normal public that doesn't speak in engineering.
Yes.
But specifically conceptual alternatives, that's where it's talking about the 2 different options.
Right.
And the way that he kept phrasing it today is they're gonna propose an alternative. And when you say alternative, it's actually like, this is what we want to do, not versus like, oh, instead of either of these, we're gonna do that. It's, this is the direction we wanna go, and we can either choose to approve that and say, yes, your findings are correct, or we can say, no, we disagree with that, we think B is the right one.
Okay.
And so that's when we'll have that opportunity to review.
Thank you for clarifying.
PAR will generally come with a recommendation and then
Yep.
also an alternative.
Yep.
And the caveats and why they made that recommendation.
A really good example, if you were following along with this one, was, when they were doing the Brewery Hill design plan for the trail going up, there was a couple of alternative, like a couple of routes,
Yeah.
and they talked about the feasibility of each. It's gonna be really similar to that
Okay.
in terms of the engineering, the price points, what some of the pros, some of the caveats are. So like that presentation is very similar to what we can come to expect, but honestly, we're probably gonna get even more out of it.
So we don't need two,
No, that's okay.
so we don't need 2 PARs, because
It's
those.
gonna be in, yeah, it's all
So
one.
one will be, okay, I
Yep.
bet I have
Yep.
more questions, of course.
And just to clarify, the grant that the foundation got, that's what this year's grant was for, is to pay for this study and this information and all of that. So,
Okay, I go back to tennis briefly. I remember at Parks Board, Lindsay and Barbeck were there, and they said, they very happily said, we're entering phase 1. And I asked, when does phase 2 start? And they said, there is no phase 2. So that's the answer of the mystery of why there's no, par for them. They were requested. So my question is it too late to ask?
oh, no, there is absolutely a phase 2, and they are not under any dissolution
Okay, well, they
that
don't
they're.
know there's a phase 2.
Oh, they do. I can assure you, because there was some wording that we had concerns with that came back from our legal,
Okay,
that was in the title or something, and we said, this is not what the intent was, and so the next phase is when they get their this back, it's coming to council, and council will then say,
they
so.
do that then.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah, we made that really painfully clear when we were putting that together, just like, hey, just so you know, this is not approval to do this.
And I have reaffirmed that multiple times in like literally every conversation when we chat with Public Works so they are aware of that on a regular, frequent
Okay,
basis. So
right.
I'm not sure what they said or
It was-
what they thought
it
that
was
they
like-
heard that they answered, but they are very clear.
January meeting, but I just said, when's phase 2? And they said, oh, we're going. So I just said, okay, well, let me see.
Have it. Yes,
So
next
I have
question.
another question.
Yeah.
How did this happen? Because 2 weeks ago, Ray had this MOU, and Mike Maples asked to simplify it, and it was all-inclusive, and so Mike stood up and asked for that. But how did Jeremy get involved in this?
I'm gonna say,
I asked him, yeah, that was, when it came from this meeting, it was like, this needs to go through our planner. Basically, I was taking Mike Maples, and the reason we still had it on the agenda last time was so we could get council input to take to the planners as well. But it had already been taken to the planners and given to the planners so they already had a copy of what Ray had prepared, and I requested that they do a PAR, and I had them talk with Mike to make sure that it aligned basically with when we do water, when we do sewer, make it match that.
All right, so I think that's all for now, for me.
So the short version is, I guess, because we listened.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, otherwise, we can expect an updated copy of this. We've already made a bunch of red line notes today. I did not tell him to have that prepared for this meeting, because I'd rather just have that a little bit more fine-tuned for the next meeting and the packet. But yeah, we'll be continuing to work on it. And again, the one thing I think, most excited about with that is having a kickoff meeting, because again, I really want to make sure that we set the expectation of answers we want now. So we don't end up doing the same thing we did with this golf or other folks down the line, where it's like, well, we didn't get the answers that we need to make an educated decision. I don't think that's fair for anybody.
And just to be clear, that kickoff meeting is with whoever wins the part, which means it's post us doing the resolution and then going out. It was just,
Yeah.
his suggestion was, you can have a meeting up front where you kind of do that. Go
So
ahead.
what's the timeline moving this forward then?
My understanding and hope was that it'll be up, that those edits that came out last night will be there, and we'll have it for action next time.
Okay.
But if council's not happy with that, they can postpone that. But I was kind of taking it just a step behind the disc golf, saying, okay, that worked for disc golf, let's do that same thing here.
I'm fine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if, I'm okay with having it up for action next go-around, but I've also had a little bit more insider information on it, so like, I'm also okay with pushing it for discussion again next week, so people have an opportunity to really review it, prior to making a vote, but again, you should have ample time to review, because it will be in the packet next week. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining this.
Again, same vote.
I'm okay with having it up for action, and we can always amend it, or we can always table it again, so, that's fine.
Do they get that?
Okay. All right, anything else for land use and planning from the table? All right, hearing none, let's go to Public Works, and for that, I will look to Committee Chair Ronnie.
Yes, okay, so, we just had a lot of updates from the Public Works Director, and, Public Health and Safety has already covered, some of those. Let's see, Mike went over, where Public Works is at on spending their 25-26 resort tax budget. It looks like he's going to stay within budget on all of those projects that he had. He gave us an update on our 50/50 sidewalk program, and the mayor already talked about that we'd really like to use up that money this year so we can refund it next year out of resort tax.
Allocate, yeah,
Yes.
refund it, those two syllables together mean something.
Refund, it's not refund, it's refund it. Yeah.
Got it.
Yes, okay. From
Thank you for that
Montana, I'm sorry.
clarification.
He also did say that, we should have our contract with, Public Services soon, is that correct? That they're nearing the, end of those negotiations, so we will have a new contract for council to approve. That will probably be up within the next month or so.
Yeah.
Let's see,
And we'll go through the normal, because we're operating on a letter that we already approved back in July. That should follow it comes through the work sessions prior to coming to action. I don't anticipate that there's going to be any sort of an emergent requirement there.
yeah, and he did say that there's, water and sewer projects, all of that, and the stormwater project, those are all kind of, on hold, until spring, but they are, some of them will be going out for bids soon for the sewer, and the stormwater projects. And the EDA grant, for all of those, the sidewalks and,
not sidewalks, but the, curbs, gutters, streets in that area. As soon as the contractor can get in there, he will, or they will. I think that's the one they were talking about doing it in March, and he just kind of looked at him like, I wouldn't count on that, so. I mean, we have had.
February, yes, March.
No, I know, so.
So, yeah, the takeaway there is, it looks to be a busy year, public works wise,
Yes,
infrastructure.
yes, lots of stuff going on. But other than that, we didn't really have anything else that we haven't already talked about, so I won't keep us here.
Any questions for public work? Our big takeaways there were kind of more on the staff side. We'll work with the committee, but making sure that the latest 50/50 sidewalk stuff is out there. All right. All right. Any correspondence that anybody has received that has not been shared already with council? We did get the one over that came in during public safety. Any other correspondence?
I just want to make a note, Ann did point out that we skipped over draft process for designating, changing use. And more so, I think the only reason that is getting put in there is because it's just an ongoing thing. We want people to know that it's ongoing. But I do want to note, just in our land use and planning agendas, I am putting a link to that document so people can see the most updated version of it. And as I've warned you time and time again, we'll continue to do so. It's wildly sloppy. It's just notes, really, at this point. So, but you're welcome to go through and see where our heads are at and try and play along, but also recognizing that there's multiple tabs. So what is provided within our packet might not necessarily have the full picture of what's going on with all those notes, because there's a lot of them. But that link is in our land use and planning minutes, or agendas. So,
Thanks.
just because if you try and save a PDF, I literally am updating this thing on a fairly inconsistent basis. So sometimes at 2:00 in the morning, sometimes during meetings.
And I apologize, when I saw it on the agenda and I printed it, but what I printed was the active tab, not recognizing there were multiple tabs in there. All right. Any other correspondence? All right, seeing none, that brings us to public comment at the end of the meeting. Again, this is a public opportunity to comment on anything in the council's purview. 3 minutes, you know the rules, you know yeah. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment, and I will look to the chamber first. If you please step up and say your name. Yep, come up to the speakers. Okay, Jack.
Steve Smith, 517 North Hauser, even though the address is no longer required.
Oh.
Anyway, I would like to quickly address something that Council Member Rude brought up, and it has to do with low-flying aircraft signs. And it came up at, I was going to mention this at Public Health and Safety Committee, but we kind of ran out of time, so sorry to get everybody involved here at this late hour. But Councilmember Rude brought up discussion of an incident she had with the low-flying aircraft taking off from one of the runways, and it frightened her. She was on 78, and I think should we look into the idea of possibly providing a low-flying aircraft sign, which are in existence. And I think the mayor and Director of Public Works made a request or asked, I don't know if you asked the FAA or the Montana State Board of Aeronautics, but
it was the FAA.
But there was a response from the FAA and from Karen Hollenbeck, who's the chief of the Airport and Airways Bureau of the Montana State Board of Aeronautics, and I happened to be talking with her after you gave that information to everybody. And I just want to say that, in my opinion, the objection at the time from, I think it was from Mike, was we have too many signs in Red Lodge. So that kind of ended the discussion. And I just wanted to disagree with that as being a basis for not further pursuing this. The letter that came from the FAA and from the Montana State Board of Aeronautics stated that there's not very many of them. They didn't do a canvass of all the airports in Montana, but the implication was there's not very many of them. And I asked Karen Hollenbeck, did you do a study of all, did you ask all the airports? Knowing, of course, she did not, didn't have time to do that, but he said they have no objection to such a sign. And I just wanted to state that the idea that we have too many signs in Red Lodge is not a valid reason for not pursuing this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comment from the chambers? Okay, seeing no activity in the chambers, looking to online. If you'd like to make a public comment, please turn your camera on or raise a hand or take off your mute. I am not seeing any activity. Going once, twice, 3 times to make it official. We'll go ahead and close the public comment. And I will entertain a motion.
To adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.